Hi, this is Marlene Green with part 2 of Does Your Preschooler Stutter? These are the strategies to help your child who stutters become more fluent. In our first video, I talked about the characteristics of stuttering and the factors that interact to trigger stuttering or keep it going. Some of these factors are part of your child's makeup and we can't change these. These are like familial genes for stuttering or delayed or advanced language skills and their sensitive temperament. However, we can be very effective in changing some of the environmental demands and stresses that affect your child and their speech. In this video, I'll tell you about some of these strategies. I want you to recognize that your child is doing the best that they can, but there is a lot that we can do to reduce the demands on the way that they speak and communicate. These adjustments will help their speech become more fluent and give them a lot more opportunities to practice their more fluent speech. I wonder, have you ever listened to your child's speech when they're alone playing? You might have noticed that they're speaking quite fluently and that in fact their stuttering is markedly reduced or even absent. You might even notice that they're speaking a lot slower than when they're talking to other people. And this seems to actually reflect the natural rate of their speech. And if we match this slower rate and accept the ideas that they're trying to convey, we often see a marked improvement in their fluency. This is really a good way to start supporting them. So here are some strategies that we could use to reduce the demands on their speech and to support their fluency. I think it's very important to listen patiently to your child, to let them know that you value what they say rather than how they're saying it. If you can acknowledge that you've heard their message by repeating or rephrasing what they've said, that is very, very helpful. For example, if your child says, I don't want to go to bed, you could say, I know you don't want to go to bed, but it is bedtime. Just let them know you've heard their message. Give your child lots of time to finish. Avoid jumping in to complete the word that they're struggling on or to fill in words. It's also really important to try to be face to face and at your child's level whenever that is possible. And don't do this only when they're stuttering. Rather do this as much as possible. Otherwise, you are actually reinforcing the moments of stuttering and possibly strengthening it. It's also extremely important to avoid correcting the stuttering. So it's not really helpful to say things like slow down, stop and think, take a deep breath, or start again. These instructions might actually make it seem like you are impatient with their stuttering, and it could result in their stuttering becoming even more complex or more severe. It's also important to never mimic, correct, or punish stuttering. This might negatively impact on your child's self-esteem. The most important thing is to keep your child happy about talking and confident. Another extremely helpful strategy is to slow down your own pace while you're talking. Children tend to be more disfluent when people around them speak more quickly. While it's generally not helpful to tell children to slow down, if we slow down our own speech, most children will naturally slow their own speech rate, and this would help them to become more fluent. In slowing down, you can keep your speech slow and relaxed. So do it like I'm doing now, pausing between phrases. It's not helpful to slow down by saying one word at a time, because this sounds really unnatural. Rather, pause at natural pauses in the sentences. For example, instead of saying, "Today we're going to the store and on the way back we could stop at the park," you could say, "Today we're going to the store and on the way back we can stop at the park." You could also pause before you respond to your child to help them feel less hurried. When your child talks to you or asks you a question, try to pause a second or so before you answer. This also slows down the pace of conversation. Pausing also reduces the chance of accidentally interrupting your child while he's still thinking. This will also help him to feel less rushed. Another thing that's helpful is to model language that's more appropriate to your child's language level. So we could use sentences that it's easy for our child to copy or use in their own speech. We could choose ideas and vocabulary that are appropriate for our child's age. You won't be compromising your child's ability to communicate. Rather, you'll just be making it easier for them to be successful. Sometimes children really get pressurized when we ask them a lot of questions. So one of the things you could do is to prevent putting them in a position where they feel pressure to talk by asking them a lot of questions, or by insisting that they tell their grandparents stories or jokes or perform for friends or family. You don't need to bombard your child by asking a lot of questions. And also, it's important to try not to ask a second question before you've given them a chance to answer the first one. Questions are really a normal part of conversation, but aim for the kind of questions that make talking easier. If you ask a question that expects the child to give an explanation, this might be too complex and might in fact trigger stuttering. It might be above their level of language. It's always better, in fact, to replace questions with comments and let your child decide whether they want to talk or not. For example, instead of asking, "What was that movie about?" try to a comment like, "I think there was a superhero in that movie," and then wait to see if your child talks more about it. Sometimes comments aren't appropriate, so answering choice or yes or no questions might make their speech fluency more successful. For example, "Would you like cheese or fruit?" might make it easier for them to answer, or asking a question like, "Are you hungry?" might be answered by a yes or a no. This would make it easy to be fluent. Another thing to avoid is correcting your child's speech sounds or grammar. By being a good listener, you could be a good model in a natural conversation. For example, if your child says, "I need a spoon," you could answer, "Here's a spoon. I also need a spoon." You know, when you interrupt or children compete with each other and talk over each other, that really does put pressure on fluent speech. So good turn taking is a really good way to support fluency. A common trigger is, in fact, when children are interrupted, and this could make stuttering worse. So let's try to help all members of the family to take turns both talking and, in fact, listening. Only one person should speak at a time, and everyone should get a turn to talk. Another thing is, no one should hog the conversation and take very long turns. In fact, we should all try to talk for roughly the same amount of time. So you could think of some creative and fun ways to support turn taking. One thing that families often do is take a talking spoon at the dinner table, and the person holding the spoon is the only one allowed to talk at that time. Now here comes a big challenge. How do we slow down the pace of life, which is in fact something very helpful when children stutter, and might in fact be helpful for all of us in our lifestyles. Most of us live really crazy busy lives and are constantly rushing. In fact, this actually causes our speech to become much quicker as we're always rushing through our daily routines and activities. Hurry up, get ready for school. You haven't put your shoes on. Come on, put on your backpack. Let's go, let's go. Sound familiar? Parents can reduce time pressure by making sure that the child's schedule is not too busy, or actually making the gap times between activities a little longer. And some kids might in fact benefit from participating in fewer activities. Another thing that's helpful is setting up routines so that your child knows what's coming next and life becomes more predictable. But one of the most important things, and one of the most enjoyable things, and isn't this why we have kids, is making time for talking and playing with your child. Setting up just 5 minutes every day for unhurried and undistracted time to play and talk alone with your child is extremely valuable. During this time, your child is the leader, and you follow and join in and play. It also gives you opportunities to repeat what your child says, which shows that you accept all their ideas and all their speech. In fact, this strategy, which we call special time, has been shown to be extremely effective in increasing fluency. Even 5 minutes of a day of this special one-on-one time can make a big difference and shows that you really accept and value your child's ideas, both in play and in speech. What we do know is that early intervention for stuttering is key. Stuttering can start as young as 18 months, so please, if you do feel that your child might be displaying symptoms of stuttering, make a referral as soon as possible to our program. What we will do is we'll assess your child's needs and your family's needs and give you the help that you need to support their fluency. There are also great resources on our Child Development Program website, and I think that it would be helpful for you to access these because we have a list of the websites that are reputable to support you. There is a lot of mythology out there, so it's best to go to reputable websites if you do want more information. We wish you a lot of luck, and please call us as soon as you can if you have any concerns. Thank you.